Thanks, Rob. Is this thing working? No? Okay. Good morning. Let's try that again. Good morning. It is always a privilege to be together in God's presence, and it's an even greater privilege for me to be asked to share God's word with you. Now, I know what you're wondering. Whose idea was that? It is probably no coincidence that our dear leader, Hugh, is on the other side of the world right now. Because let's face it, if I were going to put an untrained, unqualified preacher in front of the precious people of God, I would want to be as far away as possible from that predictable disaster. So 8,000-mile blast radius is about as far as you can go. But seriously, I appreciate Hugh and the eldership, Carl, who's been helping me with the preparation, for trusting me with this, trusting me, for God to speak through me. For your sake, I will try as much as possible to keep the blunders to the minimum. And it's incredible to think of how many people serve in church to make this happen. The people in the kids' work, the band, the hospitality. Can we give a big round of applause to these guys? Thank you. I was put to serve on hospitality today. I hadn't realized. But of course, Graham picked it up and he said, Abraham, I noticed that you're serving on the same day. Otherwise, I'll be stacking chairs and running back and forth. So thank you, brother. Thank you for that. On a personal note, my name is Abraham. I am married to the sparkling, magical lady sitting over there for me. We are blessed with 3 incredibly smart and gorgeous girls. Yes, that means I am permanently outnumbered at home. I have come to know my place. I keep my head down. I do as I'm told. And yes, I will very much appreciate your prayers. Hashtag pray for Abraham. Work-wise, I run a company in the financial service sector, investment management to be exact. We founded this business 7 years ago, just before COVID. And last I looked, there are 80 people working in the company, which blows my mind. I'd like to stand here and tell you that it's all down to my relentless work ethic. But as our daughter, Gabrielle, who is 6, gave in our recent performance review, she said, Dad, you are lazy. All you do is drink coffee, stare at your computer all day, play Block Blast on your phone, and then sometimes just go to London. Straight from the HR. But seriously, through the ups and downs, the highs and lows of leading a company, we have seen the faithfulness of God time and time again. So this morning, I want to revisit a series that we've looked at before. We've just, 2 weeks ago, we completed our journey through the book of Romans, and that was quite a ride. But I want to revisit a series that we've looked at previously, titled The God of All Things. And that series is essentially about how we can see God in everyday life, how we can see the sacred in everything around us. The Bible makes us understand Hebrews chapter 11, verse 3, it says, by faith, we know that the world was formed by the word of God, so that the things that are seen are not made of the things that are visible. In other words, God literally spoke the world into existence by his word. So it's not such a giant leap of faith to think that when we look at the universe around us, if we paid enough attention, we can see the handwriting of God hidden in everything around us. I learned this the hard way. One evening, I was reading Bible bedtime story to our daughter. Our daughters are twin girls, they're 6. And we got to the place where we're reading about the birth of Jesus, and we got to the place where it says the Magi, the wise men, they offered him gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And then Danielle interrupted me. She said, Dad, they gave him what? So I said, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And she says, what are those? He's only a baby. Why would you give that to a baby? Toys, Dad. That's what you give a baby, not gold and frankenmabobs. I was thinking to myself, how do I come out of this? What do you say? I mean, come to think of it, I actually do agree with her. She has a point, right? Why would you give those to a baby? Gold was not even the currency at the time. Silver was. Gold was reserved to kings and wealthy merchants. Not exactly a thing that carpenter Joseph or homemaker Mary would need in their daily life, you know. And frankincense was used in the temple when you offer offering and worship to God. And myrrh was the weirdest gift you can give a baby. It is used in the embalmment of dead bodies. Not exactly your typical Fisher-Price baby shower gift. Right? So I was thinking to myself, why? Why would they give those gifts to him? Why exactly those gifts? Of course, they still are precious things, no doubt, but why give them to a baby? Of course, hidden in those gifts is a message about not only who Jesus was, but what he came here to do. The gold signified his kingship, the frankincense is priesthood, and the myrrh speaks of his death and resurrection. Now, how do you explain that to two information-hungry, inquisitive, curious 6-year-olds at bedtime? I know, you don't. You close the book, you kiss them goodnight, and as you walk out of the room, you say, that's a really good point, Danielle. Let's talk about it when you are 10. The point, ladies and gentlemen, is that when we look closely around us, we can see the deeper, sacred handwriting of God in the universe around us. Not only in the universe, but in every situation and circumstance that we go through. So this morning, we're going to look at one of God's magnificent creations: mountains. And who's ready for a geography quiz? Oh, yeah. Geography quiz? Anyone? All right, I have brought presents. Seriously. Lots of presents. And can I have 2 volunteers? I'm not going to ask you to do anything silly, just to hand this out. As in, All right, okay, so you open it. All right. So there's a lot of, can I have another one on this side? Come on, thank you. All right. All right, so you can open it, please. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, so the task is very simple, right? So we are going to name the top 10, you're going to name any of the top 10 tallest mountains in the world. Any of the top 10. If you get it right, you get one of those, right? Now, if you can go ahead to actually name, or not name, state the height of the mountains, and I'll take it in meters or in feet within, 3-digit approximation, rounding. I'll take it, right? If you can state the height of the mountain, then you get another one. Now, if you can state the country of origin, or the country of location, where they're based in the world, you get 3. And then you get one of these additional gifts. Now, let's just be clear about what's going on here. This is not my attempt to bribe the entire church with chocolates so that they can feed back to you and the leadership how great my preach is. Who would think of such a sinful thing? All right, okay, so let's go. Yes, sir. Ma'am, sorry. Snowdonia. Not exactly one of the top 10 in the world. No. Yes. Paul. Kilimanjaro is the highest one in the world, is the highest one in Africa, not in the top 10. I am sorry. I'm going to have to take this chocolate home, ma'am. Everest, correct. That's good. Thank you. Come on. Do you know where it is in? Do you know where it is in the world? Do you know where it is? Nepal. You get another one. And how high is it?
Is it 11,000 feet?
No. Higher than 11,000 feet. That's very good. You keep going, yes. K2, yes, that's correct, Rob. Thank you. You can have one. And do you know how high it is?
8,000 meters.
8,000. Well, it's actually 8,600, but I'll give you. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. 8,611 meters it is. Yes. Who else? Yeah. And where is it in the world? That's easy.
I'm assuming Nepal.
Nepal, of course it is. No, it's not Nepal. I'm sorry. It's not Nepal. It's in Pakistan. Pakistan, China. That would have. Right. Anyone else?
Mount Elbrus, 5,450, and I think it's Georgia and Armenia.
It's a very good try, but it's not in the top 10. You can have one. Good try. Who else? Come on. Go on. Lhotse, correct. Is in Nepal. And how high? 8,000. I'll take 8,000. It's actually 8,516. He's got an advantage. He did help me prepare the preach. So I didn't tell him. All right. Okay, what else? Come on, who else? Sorry? Mount Etna. No, it's not in the top 10. Sorry? No. Sorry. I'm going to take this chocolate, Wendy. Sorry? Not in the top 10, I'm afraid. Mount Fiji? No. All right. Shall we put everyone out of the mystery? And can we pass the chocolate? Thank you. Let's bring up the answers. You can just pass it around. Pick one. Yeah. Did I mention we're not trying to bribe people with chocolate? You can just give it and It's okay, just pass it on. Those are the top 10. All of the top 10 mountains are more than 8,000 feet, and 80% of them, i.e., 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10 of them are based in Nepal. When you read the scriptures through the perspective of mountains, you'll be forgiven for thinking that Israel is a particularly alpine nation. There are around 300 mentions of the word mountain or mountains in the King James Version, in the King James Bible. 300. Compare that to faith or love with around 310. There are more mentions of mountains in the Bible than grace, gospel, and cross put together. Yet, Israel is not a particularly alpine nation. If you compare it to some of the most mountainous parts of the world, so Nepal, Switzerland, where about 80-90% of the land mass is alpine, Israel has between 15 to 20% of its landmass that can be described as mountainous. And that's pushing it. The highest mountain in Israel is 2,250 meters high. Everest, the highest mountain in the world, is 4 times the highest mountain in Israel. Now, guess where the lowest part, the lowest point in the universe is? Guess. Dead Sea. Who am I going to give this thing to? All right, let's just. The Dead Sea. The Dead Sea, which is located in Israel. Such is the frequency of the reference to mountains in the Bible that Jesus constantly went to mountains to pray. He prayed on one, he's transfigured on one, he died on one, he's betrayed on one, and he ascended to heaven on one. Yet, Israel, the country of Israel, is not a particularly alpine nation. Andrew Wilson, the author of the book, The God of All Things, notes that the frequency of the word mountains, the frequent reference to mountains in the Bible, is not necessarily for its geographical significance, but its theology or theological and spiritual significance. When we look at that magnificent creation of God more closely with a curious mind, then perhaps we can get the message hidden in it. So here's the question. When you as a Christian, when I as a Christian think of mountains, refer to mountains, what comes to mind? What do you think of? Majesty. Thank you. Brilliant. What else? Sorry? Trials. That's the one I'm looking for. Trials. Problems. So, mountains in the Bible signifies problems. As Christians, we have come to think about mountains as problems. Mountains can be anything that stands between us and God, between us and His plans for us, between us and our God-given desires or dreams. We even have songs about it. Remember in the old days? Yeah? Bigger than all my problems, bigger than all my fears. God is bigger than any mountain that I can. Oh, no, Zechariah chapter 4, verse 7. Who are you, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel, you shall become a plain. This is God speaking to Prophet Zechariah, but giving a message to Zerubbabel. To set the context here, Zerubbabel was the governor of Jerusalem at a time that the city of Jerusalem was lying in ruins. They had returned after decades of exile in Babylon. So Nebuchadnezzar, remember Bible school? Come on, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had come to Israel and essentially took everybody captive and taken them to Babylon. And the children of God, or the children of Israel, they spent decades there. People died there. And then a new king came in and says, okay, go back and rebuild this ruin. The city was in ruin, the temple was destroyed, and so Zerubbabel was the mayor of the city at this time. So they started getting men together to start building. They wanted to start with the temple. And when they built the temple, the plan was that they were going to build the wall of the city and rejuvenate the city. Halfway through that, we see Micah chapter 4, a group of people came in. The Bible called them the enemies of Judah or Jerusalem. They came in and they said, can we build this together? And Zerubbabel said, no, we're not going to build together. We're going to build for our God. And these people started spreading lies amongst the people of Jerusalem. They bribed officials, and they ultimately got an injunction from the king of Persia to stop the building of the temple. And so when Prophet Zechariah received this message, he was in the middle of that hopelessness that God seemed to be saying, this is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, not by might, not by power, but by spirit, says the Lord of hosts. It was as if God was saying to the governor, if you try to do this on your own, if you try to do this by your strength, by your power, it ain't going to work. And then he goes on and speaks to the problem. There wasn't any physical mountain in that equation. Yet, God says, not by power, not by might, but by my spirit. Who are you, O mountain? Before Zerubbabel, you become a plain. This is the simple significance is there is a problem standing between this person, Zerubbabel, and God's intended plan for their lives. So mountain represents, challenges, troubles, things that stand between us and God. But maybe there is another connotation. So if we have a look at I've forgotten what I'm supposed to say. Never mind. Where is it? Psalm 125, verse 1, brings us to another connotation of mountains in the Bible. Permanence. Mountain speaks of God's unshakable stability. Psalm 125 says, those who trust in their bank account shall be like Mount, It says, those who trust in the NHS shall be like Mount Zion. No, I am sorry. What he meant to say is, those who trust in their jobs, their work, shall be like, no, that's not what it says. It says, those who trust in the Lord shall be like Mount Zion that cannot be moved but endures forever. It's almost like God seems to be saying, your problem on the one hand represents this immovable thing when you look at it from your own perspective with your own strength. But if you trust in me, if you shift your attention away from the problem and look at me instead, you see my unshakable stability. I love the next verse. It says, as the mountains surround Jerusalem. I can't understand that. Like, Jerusalem, we just said, is not a particularly mountainous nation. Although I did find out that Lebanon, which isn't far away, has 80% of its land mass as mountains. So, I don't know. My point is, then God goes ahead here to compare himself with mountains. He says, as mountains surrounds Jerusalem, so I, God, surrounds my people. The point is, when we take our attention and our focus away from problems and challenges that we face, and we put we put it instead in His permanence, in His unshakable stability, that stability flows into our own lives. The next symbol that we find in the Bible for mountains is presence. Somehow, mountain seems to be, I want to say, God's favorite joint. Like he hangs out there. You know, it's certainly one of his preferred meeting points for people. I don't know who likes, I don't know, where'd you go to hang out? Starbucks or something. God likes hanging out on mountains. Again, we're not talking about this as a physical place necessarily, because in Isaiah chapter 2, I believe, it says that in the last days, the mountain of the Lord house shall be exalted above all other mountains, and all nations will flow into it. Here it's talking about mountains being a preferred meeting place for God. We see examples in the Bible. Elijah heard the still small voice, for instance, on the mountain, in what was not a particularly, comfortable situation. Jesus constantly retreated to the mountains. He could have gone anywhere. There's a verse of scripture that says, the people were coming to make Jesus king. And so he retreated to the mountains and he prayed several times. He could have gone anywhere. He's literally Jesus. He could have gone to the sea. But he goes to the mountains constantly to pray. And he was transfigured on a mountain. Mountain is a connotation or is a symbol for the presence of God. It seems to be the place where God meets people. We approach him, we go up to him, he comes down to us. It's a meeting point between God and man. That's not all. He doesn't just meet people on mountains and say, yeah, it's been nice seeing you. Off you go. We chit-chat, we drink a bit of coffee, and then he says, off you go, I'll see you later. No. He forms pacts with people. He forms partnership with people. Andrew Wilson says, the major covenants of the Old Testament were made on mountains. And I think of covenant as being something that is of a higher order than, let's say, promises. I can give you a promise. But a covenant, we sign it. You do this, this is your part, this is my part. As long as you hold your end of the bargain, I hold my end of the bargain. Mountains are where God makes pacts and partnership with us as his people. So, is it a coincidence that God uses the same symbol to signify our problems as he does to signify his permanence, his presence, and his pact? Is he just a sheer coincidence? I don't think so. Our God is a deliberate, intentional God. He organized every single part of our universe. He counted the air, every single one, on our head or heads. My point is a deliberate, intentional God. And so, could it be that when we face issues and challenges and problems that seem bigger than us, could it be that it is really, and I say that humbly, it is really an invitation to trust in his permanence, to linger in his presence, and to form pacts and partnership with him? What if we stop looking at all the problems and all the challenges and all the things that we face on a daily basis that somehow stands between us and our God-given desires? What if we think of them, we approach them as a place to trust him, as a place to meet him, and as a place to form partnership with him? I am convinced that if we do that, I am convinced that if we learn to see our mountains as meeting points with God, I have absolutely no doubt that he shows up for us. A man was talking, we were just chatting, this morning, and he was talking about some challenges that he's going through at work. And then he goes to recount every single time that God has showed up for him. And he says, and I love that. I love the fact that when he's confronted with a challenge, a difficult situation, the first thing he does is to go back and recount all of the times that God had shown up for him. What if you try that? What if you, every time that you face a challenge, a difficult situation, whatever it is, what if the first thing is in even prayers? What if it says, God, I know you've been faithful before. I know you've bailed me out before. I remember this time that you were there for me and you showed up. And I trust that you will show up again. And I trust that you will help me. How do we bring the presence of God? How do we bring the presence of God to the situations and challenges that we face on a daily basis? Yes, we can pray. But what if we praise him? You know, the Bible says, God inhabits the praises of his people. What if we make that mountain a meeting point and a point of praise? What if we bring his presence into that mountain? I'll give you an example, and forgive me, it's a business example, because that's what I spend most of my time doing. Late 2023, our business was going through sporadic growth. And then we hit a challenge, a really bad problem, where one of our earliest backers, this is a big organization. I'm talking multi-billion pounds organization who had backed our business in the earlier days, didn't like the direction that we were going, and they wanted us to go in a different direction. And I said, no, that's not what we set out to do. This is where we're going. They threatened, they threatened to destroy our business. Now, of course, you can get angry, you can start a fight, you can do all sorts. It doesn't change anything. And I remember throughout this period, Fumi and I went praying as such, if you like. We weren't saying, oh God, the CEO of this organization was personally involved, verbally threatened our business. We weren't saying, God, deal with him, fire, fall on him. We weren't saying that. We just went. You know what we did? Almost every morning, I sang this song. It got me through. I'm going to get the media team to pay attention to the words. It's a really, really powerful song. It takes me places. I love that song. Every single day, we put this. When you do this thing on Spotify, you double click on repeat, and it just go every single time over and over and over and over again. People on our side of this debate expected me to, shout or scream at this person or fight. I said no, because, our battles as Christians is not with the flesh, right? So no, we wouldn't do that. We would trust in the faithfulness of God. Now, of course, God works in mysterious ways. we found ways to part companies with this organization completely, sever company with them, part ways with them. They went their own ways, we went ours. Our business is probably 3 times what it was then. A few months later, and I say this, the CEO of this organization, this individual, was kicked out of the company he had founded. And people on our side started celebrating. They were saying, karma, this. I said, no, I actually do feel sorry for him because I wasn't fighting a personal battle. My point, ladies and gentlemen, is that when we take our problems and we bring God into it through praise, by recounting his faithfulness, when we look back in the midst of difficult challenges and we recount all of the times that he had been with us, that he had shown up for us, everything changes. Psalm 114, verse 4, it says, the mountains skipped like rams, the little hills like lambs. What ails you, O sea, that you fled? O Jordan, that you turned back? O mountains, that you skipped like rams? O little hills like lambs? Tremble, O earth, at the presence of the Lord, at the presence of the God of Jacob. The point, again, when we bring the presence of God to our mountains, they skip like rams. The psalmist says, the mountains melt like wax at the presence of the Lord, at the presence of the Lord of the whole earth. Psalm 97, verse 5. My point, brothers and sisters, is challenges are breakfast of champions. They are stuff that life is made of. Christ never promised us that we will go through life without difficulties, without challenges. As a matter of fact, I am sorry. He promised the alternative. He says, in this world, you will. No, sorry, he says, this world, you might. No, he didn't say you might. He says, in this world, you will have tribulations. You will have troubles. He says, but rejoice because I have overcome the world. Brothers and sisters, when we see our mountains, we should remember and recount his faithfulness. When we see challenges, we should invite his presence. And we should form pact and partnership with him. And it's no good, actually, just doing this when trouble shows up. The best time to be fit and healthy isn't when sickness comes. No. This is something that we try to do on a daily basis. Because if we get into the habit of praising God in good times, then we have a better chance of carrying it through difficult times. If we get into the habit of recounting his faithfulness and trusting him in good times, we have a better chance of carrying it through in difficult times. And even in simple things, I felt that God was, speaking to me recently, something to the effect of, Abraham, I know that you make a deliberate attempt in difficult time to draw closer to me. I know that. But what about carrying me into situations and scenarios where you think you are capable? Where you think that you got it sorted? I kid you not. He was saying this to me. And in simple things like my fortnight leadership meeting or my board meeting, I would just take 30 seconds and say, God, I'm going into this. I have read the brief. I think I get what needs to be talked about. But actually, I need your help. I need you to come with me into that meeting. I need you to guide me. If we make it a habit of taking him into every single mundane thing, and you don't have to do it in a way that makes other people uncomfortable. You don't say, sit on the table of the meetings and say, let us just pray. They're not Christians. They don't understand it, right? If you do a 30 seconds, time to recognize God and bring him into the situation. I would like to tell you that the way God resolved every single mountain is to lift them and throw them in the sea. I am sorry, I cannot. Some mountains melt like wax, some skip like rams, some stay there, but our perspective change. It would be easy to have an interpretation. Life would be, easier if we have an interpretation for every single way God comes through for us. But be rest assured, he has your back. As the mountains surrounds Jerusalem, so the Lord surrounds his people.